Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I want to talk about college admissions offices and how they have everything backwards. Let's get started. All right, so first thing is this is about statistics and how it compares to traditional math classes that are right now our math curriculum in the United States is based off of. So let's actually define statistics first. So, what is statistics? And here's the thing: what you think is statistics is probably different than what I think is statistics. Um, if you haven't taken a full statistics course, it probably is not exactly what I would mean. So, I'm going to try to explain some of it. So, what is it actually used for outside of just being a number that people will point at to make some point and then you end up not even trusting them? Well, it's the math you would use to measure variability. And what that means is, let's say you have, a physics problem and you drop something and you want to know how much time it takes for it to hit the ground. Well, in a controlled environment, there's no variability in the answer. Once you get the answer, you get the answer. But if I wanted to know what the opinion of people in a certain state at a certain time, their opinions of Taylor Swift, well, depending, like when you collect that data, how you collect that data, there's variability. And hence, it's the measure of variability. It's the math you would use when the thing you're trying to figure out isn't exact all the time. Guess what? A lot of things in life fall into that category, and hence, statistics for the average person is way more useful. If you take the scientific method, you think of a hypothesis and you try to prove or disprove it. Well, guess what? When you run the experiment, it's not just, the outcome isn't just based off of like observing something, it's observing it repeatedly. And when you observe things repeatedly, there's variability. How do you isolate the fact that this medication actually was effective for this sort of illness? Because some people are healthier, some people get more sleep, some people, are of different ethnicities and genetic predispositions. So, how do you know that drug was actually, the efficacy of that drug was actually the reason why these people got better? If you remove all the science, all you're left with is statistics. And at the end of the day, if you think about it, statistics is the math that you learn that helps you make decisions as well informed as possible. That sounds like a really, really useful class. And the truth is, it absolutely is one of the most important classes that you could take that you never did, likely. If there were two things you could learn from school that I were to rank as the most important fundamental skills in an academic sense, number one would be reading. The bang for your buck for the amount of information you can take because you can read is just through the roof. That's number one. But number two, right behind it, statistics. And unfortunately, this is completely missing in our current curriculum. And it's completely not or underrepresented. And it's literally, it drives me nuts. I taught it in 2000, starting in 2013. I taught it for a few years, and it humbled me. I'd have to say I took it in college. I took a stat and probability class for engineers, and I wasn't very mature. I had a lot of things I was dealing with back then, and guess what? Didn't actually learn what I was supposed to, but when I taught it, I had to teach it to myself, and my God, it was eye-opening. It made me so much better at analyzing things to keep my own opinions in check, to be as objective as possible. And it's helped me grow my ability to sort of learn at a much faster rate, and also in a way where it, how do I describe it? And actually, it's coming up, Dunning-Kruger effect. I'll get to it actually. So, how does college admissions offices, how do they have everything backwards? Well, right now I have a lot of students who are very, very bright, but not all of them are going to go into engineering. And there's specific fields in science where calculus is very, very useful. So this is not a knock on calculus or pre-calculus. I've taught calculus and statistics, and I teach computer science. So I enjoy those classes. I enjoy learning them. I think, understanding how the world works through a lens of calculus is amazing. The thing is, the bang for your buck for spending 180 days of your life taking a class in which you don't benefit as much because you're not directly using it, nor are you actually undertaking the class and understanding it in a way where it's more meaningful. A lot of kids who take calculus take it because it looks good on their college transcripts, and they're told to take it because it looks good on their transcripts. They're told to take BC calculus instead of statistics because their likeliness to be accepted is going to go up to take a class that is less useful on average. And here's the thing, I'm not knocking learning calculus, but it's a return on investment. If you're going to spend 180 days taking a class where you may or may not fully comprehend what's going on versus a class that literally is one of the most useful things you will ever learn to improve yourself as a human being, as a person, as a learner, it's no contest. But the problem is the college admissions office, they themselves probably never took statistics. The people who are, sort of, I guess, setting up the requirements never took statistics. So it's a paradox. The people who are for you to know how important statistics is, you need to take statistics, right? But for you to take statistics, you need to know how important it is. So it drives me bonkers. I literally lose sleep over this. I'm not even kidding. I am being literal. And there's that paradox. And I have, and here's the thing. If you're going to be an engineer, you should take statistics and calculus. I have extended family that are in, the biomedical engineering fields and all that. Statistics is just as important, if not used more in many cases. I have, people who work for Apple, who work for Google, and guess what? Like a lot of the stuff that they do, it's a mix of different math, but what's prevalent more so than ever is statistics. Ever since the 90s, computer systems have been, advancing to the point where we know this. Data is everything. Now, here's the thing. Whether you use statistics in a professional setting or not, in general, it is so useful because it intuitively teaches you how to just make better decisions, how to keep your biases in check, how to interpret information, how do you question and have a healthy skepticism of information. People often say, oh, it's just my opinion and A implies B and B implies C, therefore I feel like that's right, so I'm right. No, you can actually objectively measure subjectivity because subjectivity has variability. So when you're measuring somebody's opinion, you measure it against the opinions of others, and you can analyze this information in different contexts. Because an opinion isn't just an opinion in a silo, it's an opinion based off of the context, the variables in which you sort of build your premise on, and then you come to your conclusion. So if you are someone who's good at debate, learning statistics would actually give your opinion more validity and more weight. And also it would take away some of the lies. In fact, I tell my students a lot of times that when you learn proper statistics, it's a BS detector. You can tell when somebody's just lying versus, oh, that actually has a lot of merit. There's context to which this conclusion makes a lot of sense. So, and plus, when you go see your doctor, evidence-based medicine is based off of statistics. Like I said, experiments. Your doctors make decisions for their recommendations of diagnoses and for treatments because it's evidence-based through experiments and research through statistics. You remove all of that, you're left with the actual math. And here's the crazy part, and I'll get to now how it helped my marriage. Statistics, because when you try to design experiments and when you learn about how research works in all the different forms, whether it's collecting people's opinions and surveys, polling people for, seeing who's going to win an election in terms of probability, uh, or seeing again the efficacy of a drug, you actually have to question how you collect the data. You have to question how you interpret the data. You have to question, are you using the right model? You have to then think about, well, when I actually come to my conclusion, am I stating it in such a way where I'm not extrapolating its meaning and taking it out of context? It basically makes you a smarter, more thoughtful person when it comes to what you say and your opinions on things. And it combats what's known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. Short definition, Dunning-Kruger effect. It's when you're too stupid to know you're stupid, and I was so guilty of that. And I'm still guilty of it here and there, but I'm much better at keeping myself in check and turning, what could have been a really stupid conclusion to a very thoughtful, methodical sort of pathway to learning, to be like, well, if I really believe this, well, what if it was in this context, or what if I changed that variable, or is it always because of this, or is it because of something else? Like, it just exercised my mind in a way where I just started looking at everything so differently. And so at the end of the day, to finish this off, because there's so much more to unpack, my older son is on the spectrum. He is high functioning. He does well in school, but he does have his have things that he struggles with. And when he was first born and diagnosed, I, as a parent, felt like I need to do anything and everything. It's still to this day, like mentally and emotionally, the hardest thing I have to overcome on a daily basis, to feel like I'm doing everything and anything for him. And it's tough when you sit on the other side of an IEP meeting, and I'm a teacher. I've sat in IEP meetings, but it was the first time I was sitting on the other side of an IEP meeting, and I had to understand standardized testing, below average, below average, below average. Like, understanding how to interpret that in a constructive way, and realizing it's not all doom and gloom. Statistics really help with that. And also, this was around 2014, the understanding of autism and the things that might help have continued to come a long way. And I was fortunate enough at that time that ABA therapy and BCBA is coming up with plans to really, really support my son. It was pretty well studied, and we were able to get him support really early on. But there were all these other things that people were like, hey, you try this, you try that, you go online, you try all these things. Oh, vaccinations cause autism. And I remember getting to so many arguments with my wife, who is a physician, that, like, why aren't we trying this, or why don't we spend money on that? Like, there's this supplement and we got to do this. And even within medicine, there are private practices that, will try sort of things that haven't been proven yet, but are in the middle of being studied. And at some point, one of the doctors there was like, oh, we can try having a spoon of olive oil every day. And at some point, my wife was like, this is just getting ridiculous. Like, where's the line between, and at that point, I didn't understand. I thought, we can do all these things, and it would cost money. Like, there were these medications that he was recommending, or supplements that we don't know if it would actually help. But I was like, in my mind, well, why can't we just do that? Like worst case scenario, maybe it's not harmful, but maybe it could help. And I remember when I started teaching statistics, I started understanding how evidence-based medicine worked, and how doctors really have to go by, for the most part, a mix of their own experience and observations with the literature of evidence-based research. And from there on, I was able to kind of understand where my wife was coming from. And then we also had a specialist tell me, like, hey, you know what? The truth is, we don't necessarily know if some of these edge sort of case or these ideas on the edge that haven't been fully researched. Maybe they would help, maybe they wouldn't. But if you're going to spend, let's say, hundreds of dollars on a supplement, and, fortunate for us, we have the means to do that, well, why not spend that on, like after school activities where you can have him in social environments where we know that would definitely help. And then it kind of dawned on me, yeah, it helped me make a better decision, just being more thoughtful and more understanding of, evidence-based things versus things to consider. It just helped me weigh out things more, and it helped me understand my wife's perspective so that I was able to communicate with her better. So statistics really has changed my life. It's and I'll be the first to say I'm still an idiot sometimes, but I still have a lot of baggage in my head, but I've had a lot of insecurities still to this day. But when you have a lot of insecurities and you try to overcompensate, Dunning-Kruger effect really, it's something that I've gotten way better with. And I'm happy to say that, I think I've become smarter because I'm able to keep myself in check, keep my ego in check, and just be more thoughtful about how I learn. And that's helped a ton in my life. It's helped a ton for me as a father and a husband. And I just want to share this with everybody. There's just so much more we can talk about in terms of the benefits of learning statistics, not just through a professional standpoint of I'm going to be a statistician, but literally understanding how the world works. And I will say one more thing. I do want to make a video about evidence-based medicine and statistics because right now the state of medicine, and with pharmaceutical companies and big corporations that are for profit, evidence-based medicine itself has been getting flipped upside down. And while a lot of people are distrustful of big pharmaceutical companies, understanding statistics will give you so much more nuance in understanding when you can have a healthy sense of skepticism and healthy sense of distrust for, let's say, pharmaceutical companies and pills and what your doctor advises, versus just going down the rabbit hole of conspiracies and just sort of thinking everything mainstream must be false. So I hope some of this was helpful and enlightening, because it certainly made me just so much more open-minded than I was in the past. And all I want to do is share this because it just means a lot to me, and it's meant a lot to my life. So take care and peace.